Hello, I'm Dr. Bill Spady, and I'm delighted to have you on the Fifth Paradigm website. I'd like to explain a little about my career and my motivation for creating this website and for doing the work that we call the Fifth Paradigm. I began my career in 1967, a long time ago, with a PhD at the University of Chicago. I taught at Harvard in their graduate school, and I taught at the University of Toronto in their graduate school. And really got excited at that point about what I call the conditions of success. What it is that schools were doing that really either encouraged or inhibited students from being successful. And the more I probed into this area, the more I realized that the entire system was conspiring against almost all students except either the very most motivated or the very brightest. So I dedicated my career to doing something called expanding the conditions of success. And the farther that went, the more I realized that we can make people more and more successful by changing things that schools do, but we weren't really addressing the deeper issues of what is it we wanted them to learn and who are they as human beings. So as I probed this further and further throughout the decades of my career, more and more realizations came to me that we needed to, in fact, fundamentally expand our awareness of who's the learner, of what it is we want them to learn, and ultimately what kind of society and world do we want to create by having them be graduates of our educational system. So bottom line, it was about 10 years ago when a whole number of pieces finally fell together for me that led to my seeing education represented in 5 fundamentally different ways. And every one of those steps that I took in by both my thinking and what had been my career experience, I realized we were moving closer and closer and closer to an in-depth look at who is the human being, what are their real qualities, and what kind of potential, both spiritually, psychologically, physically, do they hold that we either are or aren't nurturing in our educational system. So I began to develop a series of ideas, papers, discussions with colleagues around the world, and what became clearer and clearer is that the farther we marched over toward this fifth paradigm reality, the more we would profoundly and fundamentally need to change what our educational system does. So my motivation for doing all this work started with education, but it evolved at the same time into looking at leadership as a way of actually bringing about in the world the kinds of changes we wanted to see. And it reflected on my own inner work as a human being and the great actually spiritual adventure I was on without realizing it in some cases, but realizing it more and more. So I hope that you'll take a look at my biography just to know a little bit more about the facts of who I am. But ultimately what I'll be explaining later is the deeper rationale and the kind of experiences I've had that lead to a way of looking at the world and being in the world in a fundamentally different way. A way that is more compassionate, it's more conscious, it's more collaborative, it's more creative, and in the process, it really changes our whole notion of what it means to be an effective human being, a contributing human being, a competent human being, and a caring human being. Thank you.